Welcome to Real Estate Real World, where we talk to the movers, shakers, and leaders that are getting it done right now in the real estate industry and beyond. I'm your host, Marguerite Crespillo, and I started this podcast simply dedicated to calling people about what's really happening in this crazy roller coaster ride of real estate. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and stay up to date on the newest stuff by adding yourself to the list at www.realestaterealworld.com. Now, let's dive into the world of real estate. Hello, everybody. It's Marguerite Crespillo, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Real Estate Real World. Today, I'm very excited to speak to our own Michael Valdes, and he is the Chief Growth Officer of EXPI Realty, the only Latino CGO of a publicly traded real estate company on the Nasdaq, EXPI. Leading his team, he opened 21 countries. Actually, I just found out it's 24 countries in under 2 years amid a global pandemic without traveling. First in the industry. Previously, he served as Senior Vice President of Global Servicing at Realty Corporation for 15 years. With a background in finance, he was the first Latino Director at Deutsche Bank in the United States. Michael chairs the AREAA Global Advisory Board, co-hosted the 2020 AREAA Global Luxury Summit, and serves on the NAHREP Corporate Board of Governors. He leads One EXP, the DEI initiatives for EXP, and has served on various diversity and healthcare boards. Residing in Dallas, his work impacts thousands globally, enabling financial freedom for families. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Marguerite. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm out here in Northern California, and normally it's pretty beautiful and sunny, but we're having rain and overcast this week.
Oh my gosh, I'm heading up to Northern California on Monday.
Are you really? What part are you going to be in?
So I'll be in Oakland.
Okay, so that's a couple hours from me. Yeah, I'm a little further north outside of Sacramento. I'm actually where Brent lives when he's not in Puerto Rico. So yeah, my house is, I could probably throw a rock to his house. He lives like a half mile from me. So what I told him, I go, if you hear like weird tapping on your windows, it might be me sneaking in.
It's just you.
It's just me.
I love it.
So I'm thrilled to have you here. We see each other all the time at these events, but rarely do we get much time to chat without a million bazillion things going on because you're always swarmed by everybody, which is great. So I would love to hear a little bit about your background. Like, where did you grow up? What led you into this crazy real estate world?
I grew up in New York City, so literally born and raised in the city. I'm one of the few true New Yorkers. I was born in St. Vincent's Hospital, which is in the Village. So I'm a true New Yorker. And so everyone says to me, what was it like growing up in New York? I don't know anything different. So it just was. And so I'm a city boy, true and true. I love going to the country a couple of days or a weekend, but I couldn't live there. And like, where is my closest Whole Foods? It's Leaf Meat somewhere in the city. But born and raised in New York, and I actually got into finance, as you alluded to. So I was with Deutsche Bank for almost 10 years, and then I left after 9/11. 9/11 obviously changed risk management and banking world and everything that was with it. So in 2003, I just started buying real estate in Miami. And so I started buying a lot of real estate from my own portfolio and realized that the majority of my hard costs were real estate commissions. And I had a lot of free time. So I actually got licensed for my own portfolio. And then through a series of circumstances, ended up meeting the person who owned the first franchise for Sotheby's in the United States, which happened to be in Florida. And so through a whole series of circumstances, I came in, I ran his team for a year, and then decided that I wanted to start my own team. And that's how I started in real estate. That first year, I was ranked in the top 1% of all realtors in the state of Florida. My very first sale was a $6.8 million sale, which was the penthouse of the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami Beach. And then my second sale was a $12.4 million sale, which was a door knock.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And so I sold for about 5 years or so, more than that, actually, 6 years. And then in 2010, I moved over to the corporate side of Sotheby's. I moved to London to create the European network for Sotheby's and opened up, I think it was 70 offices by the time I finished with that brand. And then for the last 3 years that I was at Realogy, I was senior vice president overlooking all of the Realogy brands, which included Sotheby's, Coldwell Banker, Century 21, ERA, Better Homes and Garden, and Corcoran. And then in 2019, met Glenn Sanford at Inman in New York. We sat down, we talked about what would an EXP Global look like. I got really excited when I understood what the EXP model was, where the agent became the brand and EXP was just the platform. And it was just like, wow, this could really translate globally. And then I joined in May of 2020, had my team that I assembled, which was an incredible team. And we ended up, as you said, we opened up over 20 countries in less than 2 years in the middle of a pandemic without ever getting on a plane.
That is insane. I joined EXP in October of 2016.
Wow.
And at that time, there were only 1,400 agents in the whole company. We weren't even in every state.
Yeah.
And then I remember when we opened in Canada, and I remember actually sitting at a dinner with Glenn here in Roseville and him talking about his vision. And at that time, he wanted to be open in 10 countries in the next couple of years. And that was probably 2019. So, it's funny how the universe collides and brings people together, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's been an amazing ride. When I joined, there were 23,000 agents, and now we're almost at 90,000 agents. It's an incredible journey just in the last 4 years. So I can well imagine what you did in the last 8.
It's funny because I remember the first event I went to, Rolf did an event in Puerto Vallarta in 2017. I want to say it was like March or April of 2017. And there is this picture of us somewhere. I think Brent has it. And there's about 80 of us there crammed into this room. You know how Brent loves to do that. Crammed into this room. And it's never going to be him and Jean, and it's never going to be this small again. And so there's this picture there's about 80 of us. And that was all of the leaders and stuff at that time. And it's been a wild ride. I've been 30 years in real estate. So it's been like nothing I've ever seen.
It's important with that statement, that room will never be this small again. And it's such an impactful statement because it's not just the people that we're adding, it's the lives that we're touching with this model. And the amount of lives that are changed because of it, that's really what's impactful.
And that has been a recurring theme in people that I have spoken to lately, is that this company has literally changed people's lives, mine especially. And I don't know of another company that can literally say the same thing. And I've never been affiliated or associated with a company that is changing lives in that way. And I guess, who is it? Elizabeth Riley always says, you can't, from the outside, you can't understand. What does she say? From the outside, you can't understand it. From the inside, you can't understand why everyone's not here.
Yeah, it's from the outside looking in, it's impossible to explain. And from the inside looking out, it's impossible to know why everyone's not in.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating to me, and I guess it is something that is hard to explain. How do you explain it when you are, for example, when you're starting to look at another country or build another country? What does that process look like that you go through?
There's a lot of checkpoints that we look at because when we were first jumping into this, we were creating a global brand. So we wanted to have strategic larger countries like Mexico and Brazil and India, where we really wanted that name out there in a very quick way. And then the other thing was coming in and then filling in Central Europe. So we wanted to have Spain and Italy and all of those countries represented because that's where there was a large amount of real estate and a large amount of transactions that were happening. So we wanted to make sure that remained very much a part of where our trajectory was. And then from there, understand what other countries would complement where we were. So if you think about it as a shopping mall, excuse me, I wanted my anchor tenants. I wanted my Apple store. I wanted my Neiman Marcus. I wanted my Saks Fifth Avenue, right? And then you fill in the other stores, if you or the other countries that were smaller but would complement where our anchors were. And that's where I continue to do that. So when we're looking at countries now, we're looking at what's the competitive landscape there, making sure that there's enough agents. Because remember, we're not a franchise. So we own everything outright. We start with a corporation in that country. We create all of the infrastructure, the banking, the finance, the accounting, making sure that everything is set up. We do the infrastructure, and then we get a small team in place, and we build from there. So that's really where the model is. So we want to make sure that wherever we enter makes sense for wherever we are already.
So one of the questions that comes up a lot, Joe and I went to Spain for a couple weeks a few years back, and we weren't with EXP yet. I wish we would have been. I've been recruiting, but they don't have some of these different countries don't have licensing, so they don't
Most
have real estate licenses. So then, how does it work to manage or oversight or compliance or things like that?
So most countries don't have a license requirements. And it's not even the third world countries you would think of. The United Kingdom doesn't have any licensing. London doesn't have any licensing. And you start thinking about these properties that are selling for tens of millions of pounds. It is an unlicensed country. And what you do is that there are sometimes associations, real estate associations or industry associations. And sometimes what you are actually doing is that we have requirements in most of these countries of at least a year of experience coming in before you can join EXP, and making sure that everyone abides by what is our systems and regulations coming forward so that we actually can have a structure in the countries that are unstructured. And we have had great success. You mentioned Spain. Spain is one of our top countries. It's done extremely well. And what you have to remember is that EXP coming into a lot of these countries is such a foreign thought where the agent can become the entrepreneur, where they're being given really a raise when we come in there just because of our floor of what our splits usually are. It's much more than what these agents are accustomed to getting paid.
So for many of them, they haven't even been part of any kind of structure or system. It's almost like we're building it out, right?
They've been in real estate, they have, with a larger brand, they have understood that there are systems in place. But when you're looking at something on a global scale, which is a non-franchise model, and something as large as us, we're the largest independent in the world. When we start looking at something like that, it is a new concept. And forget about the idea of revenue share and a cloud-based company. That is really a new concept to many of these countries.
It was a new concept to this country in a lot of ways. And it's funny because so many people don't really understand it even. And having ran my own brokerage for 22 years, and I had a franchise for a period of time, I really understood revenue versus profit,
That's
right? And when you buy into a franchise or you own a brokerage, and there's a lot out there that are struggling right now.
They sure
But
are.
but the interesting thing is that for most of those that are part of a franchise, that revenue piece all goes to the franchisor.
That's right.
And then you as the franchisee are praying that there will be profit
That's
at the
right.
end of the day. And so I remember when I saw the model, literally within the first like 10 minutes, I was like, this is crazy.
What's the catch? What's the catch? Yeah.
Yeah, I kept thinking, okay, wait a minute. Like I was waiting for the hammer to drop.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, look, I've been here 8 years now. If this didn't work, I'd have bounced. I could go tomorrow and start my own brokerage, but
Sure.
I can't even imagine doing anything like that. But in other countries, so obviously there are other franchise models or other brokerages
Sure.
in
Of course.
these other countries.
Of
but they
course.
haven't seen anything like what we're doing.
It's a brand new concept in many of these countries. I remember, Marguerite, we had a large, oh, look at the puppy.
And she loves to sit right behind me.
We had a really large team that was joining us in India. And I remember the team leader asked to meet with me before they joined. And I was like, of course. So I'm on the call with him. And he says, Michael, I've been in the industry 35 years. And then he says, do you know why I'm joining EXP? And I said, please tell me. And he says, I've studied every model. Your model was made for humanity. And that statement floored me. It was such a beautiful
Wow.
statement to say. And it was such an incredible, powerful statement. When you
Oh,
start
that gave
thinking
me
about
chills.
it, oh my God, isn't it true? It was the model made for humanity because it was an opportunity for every realtor joining to have the potential of financial freedom. And when you start thinking about the impact of that, when you start thinking about the impact of yourself, your family, your community, your country, it keeps going bigger and bigger. And that's the beauty of what was built here.
That is such a powerful statement because, like I said, I just look at how it has changed my life and how it's changed lives of those around me. The revenue share, maybe for somebody, it's only a couple $100 a month. A couple $100 a month is gas or grocery money, or it's extra money around the house or something to pay towards your mortgage.
That's right.
That opportunity is like nothing that I've ever seen in my career. And everybody that I talk to that's been here for any period of time says the same thing, that it's just changed their life. Like one story I have is a gal named Molly that I've known for years. And I love, love, love Molly. And her husband had passed away, sadly, a few years ago. And at the time, it was financially stressful for her. And I
Sure.
remember her calling me one day saying, "Hey, can you tell me how to access my stock?" And so I went in there and looked. And at the time, she had over $50,000 in stock. She just started.
Wow.
She like was such a game changer for her.
Oh,
And there's a million stories like that. That's not the only one. If it was the only one, it wouldn't be as impactful as it has
that's
been.
right. That's right. Yeah. And when you hear those stories of life changing or at least life helping, where it makes it a little easier, where
Yeah.
it makes it a little bit more the ability to just survive in many
Yeah.
ways. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful model. It's something that really has been impactful. And you're right. Listen, this is the first company I've worked for where anyone has said, this company changed my life. I spent over 30 years between finance and real estate in the corporate world, and I've never heard that from any company that I worked for.
Yeah. How many languages do you speak?
Three:
Oh, which one?
Spanish and Italian.
Oh, you speak Italian too?
Yeah.
So I'm half Italian and then half my husband is 100% Spanish. His parents were born in Spain.
Yeah.
And so my youngest son called the other day. He goes, "Mom, I got a job at a restaurant called Little Italy." I'm like, "Did you tell him you were Italian?" He goes, "Oh, they knew."
I love that. Yeah, like my mother was born in Spain as well.
Was
And
she?
yeah, in Madrid. Yeah.
My husband's mother was born in Estepona, so southern Spain.
Yeah.
And his father was born in a village or in Valdes, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But so where is EXP headed next? What are you excited about?
Listen, we've got so much momentum happening right now. The industry is a bit of an influx, if you will, at the moment. And there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of confusion. And I think that when you start looking at the leadership that we have, that you start looking at the strength that we have, the balance sheet that we have, the offerings that we have, this is really a safe home for many agents right now. There's buyer's commissions lawsuits out there, right? There's smaller independent brokerages that simply won't survive. And we have programs for those independent brokerages to be able to join EXP with a program called Boost, which is a financial incentive for smaller, independent, culturally minded, and aligned companies to join us, to keep their names, to keep their culture, to be able to now expand and become a global brand. So we are really very sensitive to that. We're probably one of the few companies where you have the founder and several members of the C-suite were all agents. We understand what an agent is going through every single day. When we say that we're the most agent-centric company on the planet, that is not a slogan. It is the fact that every decision that we make through an agent's eyes. And when you do that, I think that your future is really bright, especially when you're in a chaotic moment in our industry, because we are steadfast in those decisions. And this becomes a very safe home for agents. And so we're looking at other countries to expand into as well. We'll be making some announcements soon on some countries that are coming up really, very quickly. So there'll be some fun things that we're working on.
It's interesting because when the whole NAR settlement thing came out a couple weeks ago, what I was most impressed by was that literally within, I want to say 48 hours, if it was even that long, there was a live event with Leo Pareja,
Yep.
and where he addressed it. And then also right after that, several of the top leaders, Dan Beer, Kyle Whistle, Tina Call, Veronica Figueroa, all of those people jumped on and did a live event as well. And I didn't see any other company step up in that way. Maybe I'm blinded to them, but I didn't see any other company step up in that way to say, hey guys, buckle down. We're going to get through this, right? We're going to do what we need to do to make sure that our people are taken care of. And I was so impressed by it. And I was watching, like actively watching, like
Oh,
who is going to step up, which leaders of which companies have anything to say. And it wasn't until another 4 or 5 more days before I saw something from a couple of the other companies. And that to me was, there's a saying that I remember somebody telling me years ago that said the most successful people on the planet make the big call, and the big call is the one you don't want to make, right? Like it's the one where you do not want to pick up the phone and call somebody. You're like, how can I avoid this? And the faster you make that call, the better you are. And that has stuck in my mind all these years. And I was so proud to see our company step up so quick, so big, and just confront it head on. Like, we're going to get through this, guys.
that YouTube had 50,000 live people on it. And that is amazing. And that was just people that they weren't 50,000 EXP agents. They were
No.
50,000 agents that just needed guidance from everything that's going on in our industry. And then the following Zoom that you're talking about had 6,000 people with the leaders that were there. And then as we start talking about these things, we're continuing to talk about it. Glenn did a video on it. I had Leo on my podcast earlier this week where we just talked about this. And people are starving for that information. The idea of I just did a little 60-second snippet of the podcast that we did. So I posted a short yesterday. That short has been seen 14 hours of viewing time overnight. People are starved for information.
Yeah. And the beauty is we recently, EXP started the radio show, right? Or radio on air. And so they have also been focused on posting a lot of content surrounding this that people can, that anyone with any company can listen to. It's not EXP exclusive. And it's been interesting to hear so many different perspectives. Like I said, I've been 30 years in real estate. I know you've been at least that. And we've just been through so much. It's hard to even think that this is going to be, obviously it's a big deal and it's impactful, but I just feel like it's another speed bump, like just one more thing we got to hop through. Because here in California, our contracts and our information has been pretty rock solid for a long time with regards to that. So it's just
Every state
fascinating.
is so different. And do you know that we meet every single morning right now since the settlement? Senior leadership meets to find out what tools are needed, to find out how we get the information to our agents, to find out what's changing, so that we're real time everything that we do. And then every Friday we actually do a toolkit that we give and information that we give on our Friday agent meeting as to here's the information that we know as of this week. And we're arming our agents with all of the information as much as we can and making sure that we are staying ahead of this. And we don't know what we don't know, right? We don't know how this is going to end. But what we do know is that we're preparing either way.
Yeah. And one last thing I want to just address as we're wrapping up is that having been at this company 8 years and seen every kind of model that I can imagine out there, What I love the most is how accessible our leadership is. The fact that I'm able to hop in on a podcast with you, and I've interviewed Glenn a few times, and I've sat down with many of the leaders of this company. And I just love that y'all are human, right? And that you're accessible and that you're willing to have the tough conversations when those conversations are needed. And I just think that's the difference when I think about the humbleness of our leadership is genuinely what I love the most. And I think that is the difference between our company and many of the others is that you're just a normal guy and you're here to help and support and encourage the agents that are here. So I'm grateful for that. And I just wanted to make sure I got that out there.
You're very sweet. Thank you. And we always think, every single one of us in leadership, we know that we work for you. You're our clients. And that's what really everyone, I think, has such a servant heart. And if we have someone on the team that doesn't, I think they find that this isn't the right home for them, because I think
Yeah.
that's where everyone operates from.
Yeah. Michael, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I know you have a crazy busy schedule, so I'm grateful for you squeezing us in.
Oh,
And
I
I look
love
forward to
this.
hopefully seeing you at the next upcoming event. Or if you're going to be in Oakland in a couple of days, you're going for an event?
I am. Yes, we're going for our top team mastermind that we're running.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. If you ever come out and make it a little further north, you might not like it here. I live in the country. I have animals and chickens and goats and ducks. And
I told you it's great for a short period of time.
it's great for a visit. I'll keep you away from the animals.
I love the
Well,
animals.
thank you again so much for
Thank you,
joining us
Marguerite.
today. And I'm super grateful for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us again on another fabulous episode of Real Estate Real World, where we get to talk to all the cool people, especially handsome international ones. And so thank you again for joining us. Be sure to share on all your social media channels and give us a review when you can. It helps push us up in the rankings. Thank you again, everybody. Go out and make it an amazing day. Thank you for joining us today on Real Estate Real World, where we talk with masters and leaders in the real estate industry and beyond on how we can raise the bar in our industry. Please subscribe over on iTunes, and while you're there, be sure to give us a review. Your reviews encourage us and help others to find our podcast for show notes and hot topics on what's going on right now in our real estate industry. Also, hop on over to www.realestaterealworld.com and add your name to our email to get early advance notice of upcoming podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and go out there and be a part of the elite masterclass and raising the bar on the real estate industry.